Hi, this is Bill Watkins. I'm glad to be coming to you again and talking to you about some things that are really dear to my heart. When you look at the story of the birth of Jesus, there's this amazing thing that we get mixed up with sometimes with all of the Christmas characters and all of the things that we talk about, that we really miss the tremendous implications of the first two verses of Matthew chapter 2. I want to read that to you. He says, "Now after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, wise men came from the east, saying, Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star rise in the east, and we have come to worship him." I want to stop right there. I want you to think about how amazing that is. First of all, who are these wise men? I know that they're called magi. Did they come from Persia? Maybe, probably, but we don't know. Did they come from India? Did they come from China? All we know is that they came from somewhere in the east. We don't know really anything about them. We don't really know how many of them there were. We don't know, but they came from the east. Here's the second amazing thing. What star? We have seen his star rise in the east, and we've come to worship him, this King of the Jews. Where did anybody say that it would be a star that would rise, and when that star rose, there would be a King of the Jews that would be born, and he would be so magnificent that he would be worthy of worship? Is there any place in all the scripture that tells you that? No. As far as we know, the wise men didn't have the Old Testament scripture, but even if they had, they wouldn't have had anything about a star rising in the King of the Jews because it's not there. You won't find that in the text of the scripture at all. So how did they know this? How did they know about a star? How did they know that it indicated that there would be a King of the Jews? And how did they know that he was worthy of being worshipped? There's only one possible explanation for this, and that is that God had dealings with people other than the Jewish nation. What we have in the scriptures is the picture of the descendancy or the ancestry of Jesus Christ, and it comes all the way down through until the time of Christ. And so it focuses on Abraham and his descendants as it comes down, and yet God is at work in the lives of these wise men. Somewhere, somehow, God has revealed to people that there will be a King of the Jews, that there will be a star to indicate it, a special star, and that the king would be worthy of worship. God clearly has already been at work in what he's doing. There's another indication of that to me. If you go back to the first book of the Bible, to Genesis, and get to chapter 14, do you remember that in that passage you have Abram, who has fought against the kings and won? He comes back after having brought his family back from that time that they were captured, and this amazing character walks into the scene. It's found in verse 18. "And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High God. And he blessed him, and he said, Blessed be Abram of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth, and blessed be the Most High God, who has delivered your enemies into your hand." Now, who's Melchizedek? This is a great question that Hebrews deals with a lot. And there's a lot of false ideas about who Melchizedek was. There are those who say, well, he had to be the pre-incarnate Christ. He's not. And that it says that in Hebrews he had no father or mother or descendancy, and so he just must have appeared on the scene, but that's not what the writer of Hebrews is talking about at all. He just means that we don't have a genealogy for him. He suddenly appears and disappears in the story of Scripture, and yet he's not in the line of Abram. He's not in that line that we trace all the way through into the New Testament to the birth of Christ and then those that follow after. He is someone outside of that stream, and yet he's a priest of the Most High God. He's a king and a priest of the Most High God. Here's a person who's not really connected with Abram at all, who is a worshiper and a priest of God. You find these little hints all throughout the scripture. What is happening here? God has a people outside of the people of Israel. God is at work among all people all over the world. It's what he has always done. It's what he's doing to this day. It's amazing to me that when you go into Acts chapter 18, you're going to find that Paul is now in the city of Corinth, and obviously he is somewhat afraid. There's a lot that's not going the way that he would hope that it would go. But in that chapter, God says, do not be afraid and speak, for I have many people in this city. Now, I want you to think about what that means. God says, I have many people in this city. They're not Christians yet. He says, you're going to have to speak to them. I have many people in the city. What does that mean? It means that God is already at work in the lives of those people before Paul ever speaks to them. So he says, what I want you to do is speak. What does this mean to us? It means that when you go to spread the message of the gospel, you're not going to people who are blank slates. God is at work in the lives of every person on earth. He's at work in the history of every nation on earth. And you're not going to someone upon whom God has had no influence. Every atheist in the world is a person who already has had an experience with God. Every person you meet will. So you're not doing this all on your own, and evangelism is not completely up to you. God's already preparing the way, and all you have to do is speak. Our God is the God of the whole earth. He so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Would you trust the fact that we live in a God-saturated world where God is at work in the lives of every single human being? But that work will come to fruition when I begin to speak like God intends for me to speak. So don't be afraid to speak up. You're not by yourself, and you aren't the first influence for God that person's ever felt. Thanks for watching.